knows even why some houses are called haunted.
What would you call this place?
Well, diseased, sick, crazy. Such houses are described in the Bible as lepers. Before that, an enormous race for the underworld. A house of demons.
Hello everybody, this is Irene from the Paranormal UK radio show, the flagship show of the Paranormal UK radio network, and I'm here tonight with my co-host, as usual, Mark Johnson.
You know, I have to say I'm pretty impressed these days that you are remembering my name. I remember in the past you forget who you had on as a co-host.
It's written up on the wall in front of me.
Well,
there's a big photo of you, and it says Mark Johnson.
Is that the one with the darts in it? You've been throwing darts at it?
Yeah. More or less. I've been throwing a lot of things at it, actually, more than darts. No, I'm serious, Mark. I am remembering your name quite well. I've got to admit that. It's quite good, isn't it?
It is. You know, I do have such a tough name to pronounce, Mark Johnson. You know, very English.
Oh, yeah, very English. Very, very English, yeah. But, you know, it's just sometimes my mind just goes blank. That's all. It just goes blank.
So that's a typical day in your neighborhood.
Yes, it is. Yes. Typical day. You know, I'm away with the fairies half the time. Anyway, how are you?
I've been to West Hollywood a few times.
West Hollywood?
Never mind. Never mind.
I don't get that one.
Nor should you. Or I could say the West Village.
Where? You sound like a village, so I don't know about anything else.
Yes.
I don't know what you're talking about, but I will find out later.
Yeah, trust me.
If anybody knows what Mark's talking about, put the answer on a postcard and a stamp and send it to me, will you?
Okay.
Anyway, so let's get round to our weather forecast. Raining in Wales. What's it like there?
Well, that's typical over there. It's actually warming up to almost 60 here today. I'm actually surprised. Waiting to see how long this little warm spell is going to last before winter hits.
60, that's about British summertime, isn't it? You know, well, it's raining here, and we've got the old wind blowing. I was going to say something else there, but I thought it might be a bit too rude. So, or you wouldn't understand.
Oh, I think I would.
Yeah, we got some sort of tail end of one of your hurricanes or something, or a hurricane that's been out there in the Atlantic is hitting us all day today.
Hadn't heard about that one.
Well, it was something on the news. I really didn't take much notice of it. You know, we're so used to getting your tailwinds all the time. Always get your outcasts.
the outcasts giving you the outcasts.
Yeah. So, no, it has been windy and it's been raining. It's absolutely bloody miserable out there. You know, it does not give you that Christmassy feeling.
Not yet. Not yet. It's coming, though. We've got a month away.
Well, I asked Alexa. I did say to Alexa, are we going to have any snow this Christmas? She said she couldn't forecast after 10 days. So I said, well, okay. Shut up, Alexa. Oh, God.
So you
weather forecast now.
You say her name, and then she has to start screaming for attention.
Yeah. Listen to it.
Yep. Tell her to shut up.
Alexa, stop. Thank you. Anyway, so I asked her, well, okay, give me in 10 days' time, am I going to have any snow? So she just turned around and said, I can't give you a forecast for 10 days, but today, and I thought to myself, I look out the window, I know what bloody today's like, don't I?
You want to know the weather? Open the window.
Yeah. True. But I also asked her what it was like in Venice because, we were in Venice in September and it's literally broken my heart. The high tides that they've had over there, the damage it's done to Venice is unbelievable.
Yep. They're flooded more than usual.
Yeah. Yeah. But, and of course, the floods, the water will find its own level. But then the whole of the city is canals.
Yeah.
So right deep into the city of Venice, you're going to get floods because the canals are filling up and flooding over.
Right.
So, and it's just an absolute blasted shame. But apparently today they've had pretty sunny weather out there. So that's nice.
Well, that's nice. Well, we have our Thanksgiving out here this Thursday, our Thanksgiving holiday.
There's a lot of turkey shaking about that, isn't there?
Oh, yes. Yes, turkey, stuffing, cranberries, the whole lot.
Yeah. I can't understand why you have, it's a date, isn't it? It's got to be that time, but it's just a shame it's so close to Christmas. But then again, you lot really don't eat the turkeys at Christmas, do you? You have them for Thanksgiving.
You know what?
We have it at Christmas. Everything is turkey, you know?
Well, a lot of people do turkey out here for Christmas too, but then there's also ham. They'll do a spiral ham.
Well, we have beef, ham, pork, venison, all the different meats.
My wife's mother does lasagna. We have a Christmas lasagna.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yep.
She put a bit of holly on the top.
No, not at all. Just a crap load of cheese.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I bet it tastes nice.
Oh, yes, it does.
Yeah.
It does.
I bet it does.
And
Does she have roast potatoes and parsnip coated in honey and things like that with lasagna?
Nope, she cooks up some meatballs and sausage and extra sauce to go with it. Or as they call it, gravy.
This is very different type of Christmas meal.
We have all the rest of that this week on Thanksgiving.
Well, it definitely should make a change.
Yep.
To the usual Christmas fare.
I want to also mention...
I don't think it go down too well over here.
No, probably not. But I wanted to mention before we get into the show tonight, they just released the 3rd season of The Crown over here.
Ah, lovely.
Have you seen any of the other seasons of that show?
No, I don't bother to watch it because, we got the real thing here. And by the way, people, do not believe everything that goes on The Crown.
Oh, yeah.
Because, yes, do not believe everything that goes on The Crown because it's not. It's a story.
There are parts that are fictionalized that did not happen the way that happened. I've read the behind the scenes. It's still, though, a very riveting program. Now, what's interesting is this is the 3rd season, and they changed the entire cast because they had the one cast with Claire Foy and what's his name, Matt Smith, for the 1st season. But now they've jumped forward about 10 or 15 years, so now they've got an older cast with Olivia Colman and Tobias Menzies playing, the Queen and Prince Philip.
Yeah.
And so, it's takes some getting used to the new cast, but it's still the same show, and it's very, very interesting.
Yeah, and I was watching a show the other day, a talk show, where they were interviewing the writer of Downton Abbey.
Yes.
And they were asking him if they were going to bring out a Christmas special this year, and he was very, very cagey on that. He wouldn't say yes or no.
Well,
so,
the movie...
You never know.
The movie that came out in the theaters a few months ago was a pretty big hit. It did very well, so I really hope that they do make more, whether it's for TV or in the movies, because I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yep.
Fantastic. Right, okay then. So is that it?
I think that's it for our waffling, so I think it's time to get on with the show. Introduce our guest.
I like that. Waffle time over.
Yes. And I didn't even get any maple syrup to go with it.
Go on, get on with it.
Okay. So we're welcoming back a guest who was with us a little while back, Patrick Orozco, who is also known as the Solo Ghost Hunter, and he's here to talk about some new cases. So, Patrick, welcome back to the program.
Thank you for having me. This is fun.
I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, we're sitting here ready to blow our brains out. Actually, we're just imagining our audience is ready to blow their brains out at this point.
To tell you the truth, Patrick, me and myself and Mark don't get on.
No,
we don't talk to each other any other time except on the show.
Wow.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
We hate each other's guts.
Oh, he's a pillock. I tell you, he really is that man. No, I'm joking. No, he's all right.
Yep.
He's passable.
She keeps me around.
Yeah, we've got to keep it. You don't keep a dog and bark yourself, do you?
No.
You asked for that one.
Okay, I guess I did.
Yes.
So, Patrick, let's talk about some of these new cases that you have been working on. Now, we talked a little bit before the show that you were going to be talking about EVPs and a couple of investigations at some famous locations. One that I've always been intrigued by is the Villisca Ax murder house.
Yes, in Villisca, Iowa, in the Midwest here in the States. Very small house, unbelievably small house, but they've restored it to the period, to 1910. Early 1900s, they've brought in furniture and they took out the electricity, no running water in the house, except out in the barn that they converted into kind of a nice kind of lounge type space for us, or any ghost hunter. But yes,
So
a very, very small house.
Yeah, so it's an Edwardian host. Yes?
Yeah.
Edwardian house.
Yeah. Yeah.
1910s Edwardian. Okay.
And of course, it's become, well, what happened there in 1910 is a serial killer named Paul Muller murdered the entire family and two visiting neighbor girls.
No. Yeah?
Yeah.
So he was a mass murderer?
He was a serial. Well, this is according to the book, and I believe this theory. The book is by Bill James. It's called The Man from the Train, and it's an interesting and very interesting, a riveting read about the serial killer that killed quite a few families here in the States, early 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s.
So he didn't only just stop at his own and a couple of friends. He'd done a lot of other people as well.
According to what Bill James, the author of the book, thinks, yes. Yeah, because there were quite a few murder scenes across the states that were very similar. So he and as time went on, they became more and more similar. He would leave little clues behind. At first, he was burning the houses down after he left, but then he started to leave them standing, and there were things he would do that were pretty obvious that it was the same person who was killing these people.
So he was like leaving his calling card then. Have you heard of this one, Mark?
Yes, it's been on a few of the television shows over here. I think both Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures did episodes there. And the one thing that intrigued me, what little I know of the history, and I shamefully admit I only know from what I've seen on these shows, which you know how they can screw those up, is the fact that they didn't know who it was who did it for a while. There were several suspects for many years before they narrowed down on this particular killer, wasn't there?
Yeah, and in fact, some people don't believe that this theory is correct. It may not be. Who knows? It may have just been some really odd coincidence. The book makes it seems correct to me anyway. I think the book is correct. I think Bill James is right.
So it's almost like Jack the Ripper.
Mark.
It's almost like Jack the Ripper in that, people have their ideas on who it is, but it's still out, for determination.
So he killed his own family first, did he, before he went around killing other families?
No. He killed the first family he killed was a family he worked for in Massachusetts, I believe. And then he went on a killing spree that lasted about 12 years here in the States, a little over 12 years.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So nobody really knows how many he's killed, but he did kill his own family.
No, he didn't. He never killed his own family. Not that we know of. Not that anyone knows of. No.
Oh, I thought.
And he was probably more than likely a German immigrant.
German immigrant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, the Axe murder house, really, well, I can't say it, whatever. The Axe murder house that you're talking about, how many did he actually kill in there? Do they know?
Yes, he killed the entire family, the Moore family, 4 children, and the mother and father, and 2 visiting girls, Ina and Lena Stillinger, had been visiting that Sunday, and he bludgeoned them all in bed as they slept.
Did he have a connection to them as well? Or he didn't just walk in off the street, did he?
He really literally did. He came off the train. He picked this house, who knows why, but it seems he enjoyed especially killing young girls, and he probably sexualized them in one way or another, pre or post mortem.
Oh.
Yeah. So he would pick a family. He would pick a family that more than likely was going to have at least one female around that age, around 10 to 14, 16 years old.
Oh, sicko.
Yeah.
Absolute sicko. It reminds me of that. Oh, what's that American killer? I watched a program on him last night. We've had one of our shows talking about him once, Mark.
Which one? H.H. Holmes or?
No. We haven't spoken about him on the show, but one of our shows did. God. He was about 9 foot tall. He was massive. Really tall man. Oh,
Drawing
God.
a blank here.
Drawing
a blank here.
Oh, all right. Don't worry about it. I'm sure people will know. But it reminds me of him because this is the sort of thing he did. You know? He would kill them and then have sex with them. Sometimes he would chop their heads off and just have sex with their heads.
Oh,
yeah.
It reminds me of Ed Kemper, but he did that to his...
That's it, Ed Kemper.
Yeah, Ed Kemper, yeah. But he just did... I thought he just did that to his mother.
No, he done loads of girls. Yeah, he would pick them up on the road and things like that. He done quite a few. I think he was charged with 8 murders, but I'm not sure how many he actually did. But he was a massive, massive man. Very tall, 6'9", I think, or something. Tall, towered above everyone. Anyway, so it reminds me of that. But what else can you tell us about this story then, Patrick? This Axe house. I have to say Axe murder house because I cannot say Villisca.
That's it. It's Villisca.
That's it. Yeah.
There's not much more to the story. He killed and killed and killed. He started in the South here during the warm months, or rather during the winter months. He would come back down here to the South. He even stopped here. It's believed he murdered a family even here in my town, San Antonio, Texas. Again, this was in the early 1900s. It's believed that he killed at least 95 people total. Now, a murder scene was then discovered a little bit after 1912 in somewhere in Europe, and I forget. I'm sorry, I forget where it was exactly. It may have been in Germany, where he may have returned to Germany and continued to kill. But his identity, it is only a guess. He was arrested here in the United States, and that's the only way that Bill James could make that connection.
Oh, I see.
But, back then, you can only find newspaper stories or newspaper reports of these murder scenes. And it wasn't until much too late when we started here in the States to make that connection, when people started to realize that there was a pattern. And unfortunately, by then it was too late.
Yeah. Such a shame. Now, the house itself, you said, has been renovated, but have they still got all the old period furniture and wallpaper and everything in it?
Yes, they did. They restored it to that time period with furniture, beds, everything. In fact, in the upstairs bedroom, the parents' bedroom, there is allegedly an axe mark. Where when he swung the axe to bludgeon the father, he hit the top of the wall with the sharp end of the axe, and that mark is still there in that bedroom.
Oh, that's a bit chilling.
Yes.
When you see it, when you actually go in there and you see the hole in the wall, it's going to be quite a chilling feeling, isn't it?
It really is, yes.
Yeah. So, what do you think of this, Mark? Mark,
I'm here.
That Kemper documentary I watched yesterday was all mainly what sent him over the edge was his dominant mother.
Oh, yeah. He was the first one he went after.
Yeah, but afterwards, when he was imprisoned, he was helping the police to how to identify serial killers. And from what the police learnt from him, the FBI learnt from him, they went ahead and they arrested no end of serial killers, and many of them were. It was all because of a dominant mother or dominant grandmother.
Well, you have to look at it this way. That they may have had something to do with it, but there's something still probably deep inside of him that's seriously messed up. I mean, people have dealt with dominant mothers or abusive parents or whatnot, and they don't become serial killers.
Yeah, well,
so
I'm a dominant mother. I can tell you, I'm a dominant mother with two sons, two wayward sons.
And do people start disappearing around them?
People disappear around me all the time.
Well, yeah, around you, yes. So.
Oh. No, not around them, but around me, yeah. Well, I don't know where I am now. I've gone right off tag here, haven't I? Yeah, so you walked into this place for the first time. What was your emotions? What was your feelings? What did you feel when you went through the front door?
I didn't particularly feel that there was anything paranormal about the house. More than anything, it's just a sad little house. It's sad to think that this poor family was just randomly chosen by this man to be murdered in such a horrific way, and I felt more sadness than anything else there. And not a lot happened. There was a thunderstorm that night, which made it a little. That's always fun when I'm at a location like that and we get a nice thunderstorm.
Yeah, Mark likes a good thunderstorm when he's investigating as well, don't you, Mark?
Oh yeah.
Gives it more atmosphere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were there. How long were you there for? All night?
All night till the morning. Yeah.
Yeah. On your own?
On my own, yes.
Because this man does all his investigations on his own. Don't matter where you put him or where he goes, he's on his own. And I admire you for that. You know, a lot of people would first crack of a floorboard and they'd be flying out the window. But yeah, I admire you for that.
There's no place on earth I will not solo.
No? You want to try my house?
I'll do it, yes.
Yeah.
And that would be just because Irene is there, you know. Forget the ghost. She's scary enough.
Yeah, I'm very scary. I am. All right, so there you were. You got into her house. Does somebody let you in, or do you have to go and collect the keys from somewhere and then go in, or does somebody first come in with you and show you about where the lavvy is and one thing?
Yes. There was the owner of the house was there. She and her husband bought the house about 20 years ago, I believe.
Yeah.
She was there, and she had an assistant, and he was the one that gave me a little tour of the house. And it was a very quick tour because, again, like I said, it's a very, very small house. I would say probably not more than 600 or 700 square feet. It's really quite small. There's a downstairs and an upstairs. Downstairs has a very large kitchen, a large parlor room, a small bedroom off to the side, and then the 2 bedrooms upstairs.
So it was a 2 up, 2 down. Actually.
Yeah.
That's what we call it up here, but over here, 2 up, 2 down.
Yeah.
Okay, and so what did you do? There you are on your own in the murder house, the Axe murder house, where all these killings had taken place on this horrific night, and you're in there on your own. What was the first thing you did? Besides putting your equipment up.
Yeah, that takes quite some time. That takes me about an hour and a half to gear up and put all the cameras up. And the first place I wanted to go was the children's bedroom because all 4 children were killed in that one bedroom. And I did have an interesting experience in there. And I don't know if this was just something that was happening in my own head or if the place was maybe I was having these thoughts because I was in that place. But I did start to have this vision of this man coming up the stairs with an axe. And I couldn't stop that thought from happening for some reason. And it was terrifying. I like to try to find the humanity in these places. And, as I was sitting there on the floor, about leaning back on one of the beds, I can't imagine if you're a child, you're in that house and you see this man coming up the stairs with an axe, a stranger. I can't imagine the amount of fear and terror that must go through someone, especially a child.
Yeah.
It was really unsettling. But I don't know if it was the house or if it was just me, if I was just imagining it myself.
Yeah. Were you in the dark or did you have a light on?
No. I use very little light.
At this particular time?
Yeah. I use very little light. And there was a street light out very close to the house. So there's ambient light coming through the window.
From where you're sitting leaning against the bed, could you see the staircase?
I could, yes.
Oh, my God, your imagination. Yeah, I mean, my imagination would go wild. I know Mark's would, wouldn't it, Mark?
I have an imagination.
Oh, a big one. At times, when you want to use it. Oh, I'm being nasty tonight. I'm sorry, Mark. I am so sorry.
You must have been wearing the ring again.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. It's locked away. And that's where it's staying for a little while.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so... Right, so you're sitting there, you're leaning against... I'm trying to get I'm picturing all this in my head. You know, this is all going through my head at the moment. You're sitting there, you're leaning against the bed, it's semi-darkness, and you can see that staircase. And you see this vision or imaginary vision of a man coming up there carrying an axe.
Yes.
Most people at that point would have wet their pants and gone straight out the window, tell you.
Now, were you seeing this in your mind's eye, or did you actually see this?
No, I didn't actually see it. This was just something that I kept imagining, and I couldn't. It's as if I couldn't stop imagining it. But again, it's hard to say. It's hard to say if that's just something I did, or maybe it was the place was making me have those thoughts. I'm not really sure. I thought I couldn't control this vision. I just kept having it over and over again, and it was very distinctive. He had one of those winter hats with the flaps, with the ear flaps up, and he had an axe in one hand, a lantern in the other, and that's actually really probably how it actually did happen. He probably did have a lantern from the house. He did. In fact, one of his calling cards was the lantern. He would take the glass off, and he would leave the lantern on next to the victims or the last victim, whoever was the last person to be killed. That was something that was found repeatedly in many locations.
That's crazy, isn't it? It's absolutely crazy. It might have been a psychic vision that you were having, but
well, I mean, I've had those before. I've mentioned them on the show a couple of times where I've been in my own house and I suddenly felt like I was being watched, and in my mind's eye I could describe this man standing there to a T. I didn't see him with my eyes. It's just the image that was popping in my head.
Wow.
I could tell what he was wearing. He was bald, very thick, burly, like a construction worker, wearing these brown coveralls, and it lasted 10 or 15 minutes.
Wow.
So, it definitely, you don't necessarily have to be quote unquote psychic to pick up on this, because we all have this ability to a certain extent.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that, to tell you the truth, I think everyone's psychic, but I don't, it's whether they actually recognize it as being psychic or not, because we all have this built-in thing where we know something's going to go wrong, or something's going to happen, or there's going to be a disaster, or there's going to be something, it all comes under the same pot sort of thing. So there you go. Every time I'm talking, I'm looking at his little picture on the what's it? And I'm talking to this little picture on Skype of Mark, and it's expressionless. How do you say it, Mark? No expression. No expression coming from it at all, because it's a photograph. So there you go.
There we go.
Anyway, so right. So you had problems shaking this vision from your head.
I did, yes.
Yeah, and did you even as the night went on and you were doing other things, did you still keep having this vision in your head of him coming up the stairs?
No, it was only in that bedroom, oddly enough, and I had been warned about that bedroom that other people seemed to be affected by it. And I was warned about it, and I was told, my tour guide told me, if that happened, just leave the house, go take a walk, try to shake it off, and which is exactly what I did. I just went back out into the barn and just kind of took a little break, because it was a little unsettling. Yeah.
Okay. And did you capture anything on that staircase during the evening?
Not in the staircase itself, but I did in the bedroom, in the children's bedroom upstairs. I did get an interesting EVP, audio anomaly, and actually they were coupled up there in that bedroom. The first one appears to be a male, and he appears to say, "You know that you are able to kill."
Wow.
It's a pretty good EVP, and it is on my video, which. I will have up on YouTube by the end of the month.
Yeah.
And then there was another very creepy, and this is if we were to classify the EVP, this is a Class A. This is a great EVP, and it is again another male voice saying, "I should go over there." But it's hard to say what the context is, and why the male voice why he would say that. So.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then downstairs, usually when I'm turning off my recorders and my cameras, I like to verbally say it out loud so that I know I'm turning them off, because sometimes I've forgotten. And
then you wonder what that little noise is, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. And as I was saying, and I'm going to turn this camera off, you can clearly hear, again, another male voice say, "On."
On.
Yeah. And what I love about that particular one is that it does seem to indicate that it's aware, that it's sentient, that there's intelligence there.
Yeah.
And, that was kind of creepy.
So the majority, or was it the majority of the EVPs, or all the EVPs was a male voice? Did you get any children's voices?
There may have been a child's voice, but it was the volume was so low that I couldn't really isolate it enough to put it in the video, unfortunately. There was another voice. It was predominantly male, yeah. There was another voice that sounded male that said, and then this was while I was in the kitchen, the voice said, "Get inside."
Get inside.
Yeah. The only other thing that happened while I was upstairs during a thunderstorm, something very loud crashed to the floor on the wooden floor, and I was really nervous about this because I thought, if it was something important, something historic, I'm going to get blamed for this because I was in the house. But I went downstairs and there was nothing. I couldn't find anything. And it was really, really quite loud. But
did you catch that on anything?
I didn't. I was that was in between me. I was beginning to shut everything down upstairs to come back downstairs, and unfortunately, I didn't get that one.
Doesn't that always happen? I was doing a place in Neath once, where apparently there was a rumor that this girl had been stabbed, and somebody told me that they'd been down in the cellar and the cellar door had shut on them, and they heard this almighty woman scream.
Wow.
Right. And then, I don't know how true that is, but this is what the proprietor told me. And then the door, he was able to open the door and come out. Yeah. But he said it felt like it was coming from upstairs on the ground floor above the cellar. And we're packing everything up. There's 4 of us. And all of a sudden, we were surrounded by this hell of a scream. And it was coming from in that room that we were in. And we searched everywhere we looked everywhere for some sort of gimmick that would have done it, Yeah. Yeah. But there was nothing. But this scream was absolutely terrible. And I said then, it always happens when you've got the stuff bloody unplugged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, again, this screaming, were you actually hearing it, or was this something that you were just picking up on?
We all heard it with our ears.
Wow.
All of us heard it with our ears. Brian, friend Barry, and also a friend Linda, and myself. We were just doing our own thing. I think Barry was Barry. He picked up a newspaper and he was reading newspaper because this was a tea house type place, And Linda had gone over to the newspaper rack where all the papers are put there for people to read during the day while they're drinking their tea or coffee or whatever. And she was deciding which one she wanted. I was packing things away in the suitcase, in the bags to come home. And Brian was disconnecting the computers. And all of a sudden, it was there. It was actually in there. It felt like we were all within 10 foot of each other. All within 10 foot of each other. And it felt like it was right there beside us.
Wow.
Yeah. And we got an EVP off of that one, which was not very nice. And it's one of the best EVPs I've ever heard. And I've got it on my computer on the desktop so that I don't lose it. And it's Barry, our friend, it screamed out in this EVP, "You're dead now, Bar."
Oh, yeah, you're dead now, Barry. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I've heard that EVP, and it was in your voice.
It's not my voice.
Well, it sounds like you, but
if you listen, I'm talking at the same time.
But it sounds like a very evil version of you. Like, "You're dead now, Barry."
Well, they do say they mimic.
Yeah.
But he passed away a week later.
Wow.
So, it's not nice. I was having a conversation with him at the time. It screamed it out. You can hear us talking. But that's about the best EVP. Well, no, there was another one. There was one down in, oh, God, where was it? The other side of Killinefley. And I was doing something, trying to get rid of this blasted, miserable old git in the house. And he turned around and said, on the tape, he goes, "You stupid woman." Just like that. Yeah. Yeah, "You stupid woman." Because it was only me and him in the room,
Wow.
Yeah, and I quite liked that one because I actually did get rid of the bugger. So, I wasn't that stupid, was I?
I had an EVP once doing a house where we were asking questions, we're setting up, and this old woman's voice comes in on the we didn't hear it at the time, came in later on the recorder. Either she was amused or just shaking her head in disgust. She sits there and goes, "Oh, boys, boys, boys." It shows you, doesn't it, that there are some intelligence to them.
Yes.
Yeah, certain ones anyway. So you got how many EVPs did you get? You got quite a few EVPs in that house.
Yeah, I got quite a few. Yeah, surprisingly. But those were the ones that I could that you can hear rather easily. That are easy to hear. And I'm limiting it to just the ones that are clearly you can clearly hear them. But as far as anything happening in the house while I was there, any shadow people, anything like that, it was really pretty uneventful, other than the EVPs, and it was really quite quiet.
So no photographic evidence.
Nothing photographic, unfortunately. No. I haven't gotten any luck in getting anything on video except when I was in Waverly Hills back in 2013, 2012, and Bobby Mackey's. I did get some interesting visual anomalies. Yeah.
Yeah, we interviewed a lady from there, didn't we, Mark?
Oh, good Lord, yes. What was her name? She used to be the tour guide there, and she unfortunately passed away from cancer a few years later. Donna, I forget her last name. God, I'm such a terrible human. But yeah, Bobby Mackey's is also another one of those that's like seems to be at the top of everyone's bucket list, but also to me sounds like one of the more overrated locations.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
The funny noises coming from this end of the mic is not me, I'm afraid. It's Gertie. She's got a curry tummy. She's snoring as well.
Oh, I remember. It's Wanda Kay.
Wanda Kay, yes.
That's it. Yeah, Wanda Kay.
She was fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, she was a lovely lady.
Yeah, she really was. Yes.
She told us quite a few things about the actual place, but it was a good interview, wasn't it, Mark? And it's a shame she died. Absolute shame. Disaster. Yeah. So how did you find that place?
I really enjoyed it, and again, I got my best visual anomaly there. It's hard to describe, but it was sort of semi-transparent. It was about the size of a soccer ball, I guess, and it does shoot across the screen up and goes up through the ceiling, and it does make an odd sound when it goes through the ceiling. So that I really enjoyed Bobby Mackey's. I think the basement was very overrated, and the hole in the ground that everybody refers to as a portal to hell, and especially the Ghost Adventures guys, was really, really disappointing because it was just a hole in the ground that had been covered over with dirt. And I didn't feel that there was any demonic presence there at all. And a lot has been made about that place, about it being a portal to hell, and it's full of demons. And I was there alone. Although you can't be alone in the nightclub area because
that's a business, isn't it?
Yeah. So I know at the time Wanda was probably keeping an eye on me.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what do you think, Mark?
What, of Bobby Mackey's? You know what? It sounds like it's got an interesting history, like most places. But, you know, a lot of these TV shows and how they overreact to certain things that happen. I just think that, you know, most of these places might have some regular activity going on, but what is going on there half the time, these guys they don't get it. They're not there long enough. You go in and you do one investigation, you're absolutely not going to figure out what's there doing a one and done. You have to take the time to do research. I mean, that's like a couple of the cases that I've done here in northern New Jersey. We went back multiple times over a couple of years, and it took that long to really figure out what we were dealing with. And we still don't have 100%. I can't sit there and tell you 100% exactly what we were dealing with, but I know what it wasn't, and I feel it was not a human spirit. Now, when you think inhuman, people right away go, oh my God, it's demonic. No, not necessarily. There's other things going on that could be very much, nature related, something attached to the land, something that we just don't know a lot about.
Yeah. Well, and Mark, you recently on Facebook, maybe a couple of months ago, you did post some really compelling evidence, and I believe it was in your own home.
Yeah, the house. That's how I got into this. The house that I moved into when I first moved to New Jersey 20 years ago had activity, and
Is that the house with the man?
The man.
The man that you kept seeing.
I never saw him. No, that was a different house. No, this was where I heard my name being called a few times. I would have sleep paralysis. I started filming with a video camera, and I caught several really odd anomalies. And the one was the one I reposted on my Facebook page a few weeks ago for Halloween. I call it the flying sock because it's this bulbous tadpole-like thing. First, it's an orb that shoots across the room, goes behind the rocking chair, and then it shoots out from behind the rocking chair, and it's this bulbous, foot-long, thing that flew right past me where I was sitting into the kitchen, and caught it all on video. I saw it go by with my own eyes.
Wow.
So it was very, very intriguing. And to this day, I still have no idea what it was. But again, that area where I was living was a very highly charged area. The house next door to me had activity. Other houses in the neighborhood, I'm pretty sure, were feeling, there's this part of New Jersey, whether it's the minerals in the ground, if you go with the stone tape theory, the minerals, the water, maybe there's ley lines. There's several locations up here that are all very hot with activity.
Wow.
Yeah.
I might have to go up there someday.
There's several really nice, good places up here to investigate within just a few miles, both here, and I'm near the New York state border, so right over into Orange County, New York, around the Warwick area. There's a couple of places we've investigated in the past. Some private homes, and a few places that I'd love to get into, but can't anymore. So, it's Jersey definitely has a lot of history. I mean, we have history from not only going back to the Lenape Indians that were here to the Revolutionary War. You know, Washington marched right through here.
Wow.
In fact, my wife and I go to this old tavern that was built in the 1700s, where George and Martha used to stay when they marched the army from Newburgh down to Morristown. They went through Warwick and stopped there and stayed there, and now it's a watering hole again. And they kept it in that old style tradition of the way it's decorated and the way. I mean, it's really cool. You can even get your own metal. Oh my God, what do you call those? The metal mugs, the flat.
Flagons.
Flagons, yes. And you could buy one and they engrave it and they keep it on the wall. When you go in there, they pull yours down and you drink from that.
Oh.
Do they have a plaque on it? On the actual building?
Yeah, they have a plaque on the outside because it's an historical
George
building.
Washington was here, sort of thing.
Well, they have pictures of George and Martha in the house, and they have several Washington's portraits. And
no, it's just that my house is over here where someone famous has stayed. You can get a plaque. Like, you know, you have to apply for it, but you can get a plaque that says that person was there between such and such a dates and things like that, or they lived there, or they were born there, you know? So. Well,
we have those plaques around. I mean, just north of Warwick is Florida, New York, and that was the birthplace of William H. Seward, who was Abraham Lincoln's Secretary of State. So, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
A lot of history up here.
Yeah. It's a good place to go and visit then. Yeah. There you go, Patrick.
I think I will, yeah.
Yeah, New Jersey.
I like the East Coast.
You do?
Yeah, I might be wrong, but I think it's the oldest part of the states here, isn't it, Mark?
Well, that's New England. I mean, and actually going all the way down the whole East Coast, all the way down to Florida, was all colonized in Virginia and Florida, and then up in upper New England and Boston area. So it's the oldest part of the United States from a European perspective. You know, Spaniards and French also being here before that. And, there's just, I'm from California. I'm from Los Angeles, and there's not a lot of history out there. History out there goes back maybe, 100 years. Yeah. Where out here, you could still find 200-300-year-old settlements and buildings and restored, not far from here. Across the Hudson, you have Tarrytown, New York, which is Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah.
So, and the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, they have the old Dutch church. And if you've ever read the original Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving, Irving's buried there in that cemetery. I found his grave. And,
did you?
Yep. And the families that he mentioned in the books, like the Van Tassels, were real families, and they're buried around the church there. And the older the gravestone, the more flowery and ornate the script is. I love it.
Wow.
On the headstones.
Yeah.
So I'm eating grape here. Got a mouthful.
Did you bring enough to share with the group?
Yes. Green or black? What do you like?
Wine.
I tell you what, I've got a cellar full of wine. Oh,
you need to send a few bottles my way.
Well, I told my son yesterday, getting off the subject here for a moment, sorry about this, listeners, but I told my son yesterday that there's so much wine in this house. If they don't start drinking it at Christmas, I'm going to start giving it away in the street. Because, Brian's got to put up another 2 wine racks in the dining room. Another 2. This weekend. It's a joke, the amount of bottles. I've got bottles coming out of everywhere.
Well.
And I don't drink it because I'm allergic to it. I can only drink our wine, which hasn't got the additives and everything in it. You know, shop wine, no, I don't drink it. And I've got so many bottles of shop stuff.
And see, I'm on a kick right now, a wine kick. So,
well, you see, the shops here do meal for two things, and you go to M&S, people. You go to M&S, you choose your main, your side dish or pudding, and you get a bottle of wine to go with it. So all for £10. Or is it 12 now? I think they might have put it up to £12. But it's a meal for two on a Sunday, and it's pretty good. And of course we do that, don't we, when we're out shopping, because we can't be bothered. We get the thing from M&S, and every time you get a bottle of wine with it, we don't drink it. So, anyway, getting back to the radio show. I sometimes forget where I am. You know, we're going to have a show of chat, just a chat show. I think that'd be pretty good, the things we come out with.
Well, let's go back to Villisca and finish that up real quick. Now, so the time you were there, you caught some EVPs and you had this vision of the man with the axe coming up the stairs. Yeah. You were there all night. Did you capture any other intriguing evidence or have any other experiences, or was it relatively quiet?
It was relatively quiet, and because it's such a small house, there's not a lot that, you know, there's not a lot of places you can go to. There's a bedroom downstairs. The bedroom downstairs there was a significant amount of knocking sounds while I was there, but nothing that seemed to be answering my questions. I'd ask if the girls were still there, but I can't say that was a response, but it was interesting that little bedroom seemed to have those sounds happening. Other than that loud crashing sound, the only other thing that happened that was visual, but I could not get this on camera, was while I was sitting in the living room, the parlor room. I got the sense that there was some sort of like a little bit of like a shadow, amorphous shadow play. It was barely visible, but I think something was happening there. So I brought my cameras down. I set them up in the living room, and I sat there for quite some time to see if anything would happen, if I caught anything. And the only thing I did catch was that male saying "on" after I said I just turned off the camera. But it was relatively quiet for me that night.
So what about some of the other cases that you've been working on lately?
After Villisca, I went down to the Sallie House in Atchison, Kansas. Yeah.
Right. Okay. The Sallie House for people in the UK. Do you want to explain that?
The Sallie House, allegedly, back in the early 1990s, the family who moved into that house, who were renting that house, had quite a bit of activity, and a lot of television shows were filmed there, and some of the evidence was actually captured on video, especially to the husband.
Hang on a moment. I'm sitting here pointing away in midair. Mark, haven't we interviewed them?
Yep, Tony and Deborah Pickman.
That's right.
Yeah. And I know Tony and Deborah. Very nice people. And their story is, I mean, I remember, this is dating me, back in the 90s, early 90s, when they had the show Sightings out, and they started doing this whole segment on what they call the Heartland Ghost, which, you know, at the time, they were blurring out Tony's face and not showing him and trying to give the family a measure of anonymity. But he was being scratched mercilessly, and he was, even while they were doing interviews, he suddenly was being scratched, and they filmed welts forming on his stomach.
Yeah.
And then later, they did several episodes. They brought in world-famed psychic Peter James, and for a couple of episodes. But you know, the thing is, when we were talking with with both of them was the fact that nobody ever really helped. I mean, sure, the TV show came in, they documented a lot of evidence, and then they went home.
Yeah,
and that's what they do.
And that's what happens, people. That's why I say don't ever call in a TV show to try to help you with your problem.
They stir up the shite and then leave you to deal with it. Yep. I tell you,
they will go home. They say thanks for everything. They go home, and then you're still stuck with whatever's there.
And half the time, it's made to get worse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So, with the Sallie House, they were really tormented for years until they finally, and Deborah even had mentioned Tony being, he was starting to become under oppression, demonic oppression, because this was definitely what could be classified as a demonic haunting. You know me, I don't like the D word myself because I don't quite believe in it, but it was definitely a very negative haunting, and he was under oppression and she was under serious denial. She kept thinking it was a child spirit. She really wanted to help it, even when her husband's being scratched and beat up and all this other stuff happening to him. And till finally it happened. There was a breaking point. I forget exactly what the breaking point was, where he finally convinced her, we need to get the hell out of this house. And they finally left because he told a story about he had a butcher's knife and he was waiting for her to come home and he was going to kill her.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And then what broke it is some neighbor cat or whatever got in the house, and he wound up killing the cat with the knife. He stabbed it right then and there into the kitchen counter, and as horrific as that was, that snapped him out of it. And that was about the time he said, okay, we need to get the hell out of this house.
That and they had just had a little baby boy, didn't they?
I believe so. They had their own children who were seeing things. They had the baby boy. They took pictures, and there was the black masses and all these pictures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, the sad thing is they've been out of that house now for 20 years. And the owner of the house still uses it to rent out to ghost groups and making money on, and people are writing books on it, and it's still winding up on television shows. And Tony still gets affected by it. Whenever somebody goes in there and starts messing around with it, for whatever reason, there's still a part of it attached to him, and it still causes him problems. Now, I remember when Ghost Adventures a couple years ago went out there to investigate, and they talked Tony and Deborah into coming back with them to the house, which they always said they were never going to go back. And they did go back. And in that episode, Tony got this welt burned into the back of his neck while they were down in the basement. And they had all sorts of different activity going on there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's ever been back since or whatnot, but, I'm curious. Now we've talked about that. Tell us about your experiences going in the house.
It's actually a really nice house in a surprisingly very active, very busy little neighborhood there, and it seems to be on a main street because right after 5 o'clock, about the time everybody's coming home from work or school or whatever, the street just exploded with activity. Kids running and riding bikes, neighbors helping each other out, washing cars, all kinds of stuff. I was really surprised that because when you see these things on television, they kind of isolate the house, and it always makes it seem so much creepier than it actually really is. And the other thing that was kind of surprising is that there were so many people there. There were so many families. If that house is haunted, the other houses in the neighborhood all seem to be about the same age, about the same time period. Wouldn't they be haunted too? And I was curious, but everybody was just carrying on like nothing. In fact, I was trying to film an intro for the video outside, and it was just too noisy, so I had to go back in. The house it's actually a really nice house. It's still very nice, very livable. The AC system there is fantastic. It cooled down the house really quickly. I was there in early summer, at the beginning of June. And I didn't feel it. Again, it was one of those things that I didn't really feel anything immediately. I didn't get any feeling, I call it the heebie-jeebies.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. I never felt anything until a little bit later in the evening. I did have an interesting physical contact experience, and this was up in the main bedroom upstairs, and I was sitting in a chair near the door, and I thought I had seen a little shadow go by the foot of the bed, and immediately after that, I felt a tug on my shoelace, and I looked at my shoes, and the shoelaces don't move much at all on their own. I was just twisting my foot around to see if maybe I had done it. But no, this was distinctly something that tugged right on my shoelace. And I did get some knocking sounds. I did say, can you knock? And I knocked a couple of times. And immediately after that, this is an EVP. I didn't actually hear, unfortunately, I didn't hear them while I was there. But on my audio recorder, you do hear some knocking responses, which is kind of interesting.
And you were there all night?
I was there all night. Yes.
Yeah.
Till morning. Yeah. But there is something a little bit off about the house. It's hard to explain. There is something about it that feels a little bit weird. I was for some reason, and I did see a portion of the Ghost Adventures show, and I remember thinking that the basement was going to be much larger on the television show. It does look bigger than it actually is, and I was a little bit intimidated by the basement. But I think all basements are probably a little creepy.
Yeah.
The ceiling's a little bit lower. It feels like a cave. So I can see why most basements would be a little creepy.
Yeah, but, they are. They definitely are. And half of them, the majority of them, because the basements, they don't have windows.
Yeah. And it's pitch black down there. And
damp.
Yes. But I went down there and I spent some time. I even tried a little bit of a sensory deprivation experiment where I just taped my eyes shut with gaffer's tape and just sat in a chair, blinded, to see if anything might happen, if I might hear something or something might touch me or something. But nothing happened. I did get some interesting EVPs in the house also. Some, again, things that seem out of context. I got a very distinctive Class A EVP of a male saying, "Hey Roach, Harold's with him," and it's really easy to understand, really clear.
Yeah.
And then and ironically, the room that I spent the least amount of time in seemed to be the most active, which was the kitchen. I did get quite a few EVPs, but I couldn't understand them. It was a male voice whispering something, but I couldn't quite understand. A very deep male voice, but I couldn't quite understand it. And then another male voice that appeared to say, "I want some penicillin." That one is a little bit hard to hear. It may or may not be that. To me, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm still wincing at the gaffer tape across the eyes. I just visualized you taking your eyebrows off on it. But, how old's the house? Anyone know how old it is?
It was built in I believe it was the late 1880s, I believe.
And was it used for anything medical or anything like that? You're saying penicillin,
I think that the first owner was a doctor. I think that's what the story is, although I don't know if that's been substantiated. Mark, do you know anything else about the house?
No, I'm afraid I don't.
Yeah. The gal that gave me the tour, she said that the Finneys first were the ones that built the house, and that the first Finney that lived in the house was a doctor.
But no murders or anything like that had ever taken place in this house, no?
Again, the way the house got the name Sallie is again another story that has not been substantiated. I don't think even Deborah Pigman was able to find anything on why the house is called the Sallie House. But the reason is because allegedly back then, when he was a doctor and when Mr. Finney was a doctor, a girl was brought to him to that house when he was a doctor who and he tried to she had appendicitis and during the procedure she died and allegedly her name was Sallie. But again, there's no historic record of anyone in that house dying of that.
And this could be one of the reasons why Deborah thought it was a child.
Yeah. Well, I think Tony saw a little girl ghost in the kitchen, I believe.
Yeah?
Yeah, he saw the little girl, and they just started calling her Sallie. But you know, that's like I did an investigation out here of a old a house that was a business that goes back to the 1700s, and they had a little girl ghost. And ironically, the staff were calling her Sallie as well. And at one point, we brought in a psychic who didn't know anything about the case, and she was walking through, and she picked up on the name Sallie right away. Now, was she picking up on the name of the little girl spirit, or was she picking up on the fact that everybody around there was calling her Sallie? You know, and that was what was in the ether there. I don't know, but you know, it's the same thing I think with the Pickmans. They called the little girl Sallie, and that's why it was called the Sallie House. But I think everybody started to agree after a time that the little girl itself was what would you call it? It was like shape-shifting. It was not a true little girl. It was putting on that visage to get in close to the family.
This is what I was about to say. You know, sometimes these things can kind of appear as at what age you want or they want to be. You know, it could be a raving banshee one minute and a nice, cute little girl the next minute. No little girls, as far as I know, have ever died in this house. The only little girl that was brought up in this house was Myra. And she lived to a ripe old age of 90. But I lay in bed the other day, and I said this to my husband. I woke him up and said it to him. I heard a child's footsteps outside the bedroom door, and it was pitter-patter, pitter-patter, and then bump, bump, bump. You know how kids stomp sometimes? Yeah. So it was pitter-patter as if she was running, and then 3 stomps.
Wow.
And I don't know why I'm saying she. But, you know, can Myra come back? She died in her 90s. Can she come back every now and then as a child in this house? I don't know. Got no idea. There's so many weird things happened in this house. But, you know, this maybe it's that. Maybe it was, like Mark said, some sort of shapeshifter appearing as a child. Type shapeshifter, well, say shapeshifter, you know, some type of entity that was able to change its appearance.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like you said, there's no proof that this little girl died in that house.
That's correct, yeah.
It's only legend or story at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so... anything else happened there? No?
There was an odd screeching sound outside at one point, and this I did hear it. It sounded like it was right outside the door, and
outside of the house.
Yeah. This is about 2-3 in the morning. I was downstairs in the living room, and it was just the strangest sounding screeching sound that I guess it could have been some sort of bird or an owl, maybe a screeching owl. I don't know. It could have been, but it was only that one time. I did open the door. I didn't see anything out there. There were cats in the neighborhood wandering around, but it didn't sound like anything I've ever heard. So, and luckily I did get that on audio, and I actually did hear it while I was there. But again, the house was relatively quiet. I didn't really pick up on much, except that just this general feeling that there's something just off. I wouldn't want to live there. It's a nice house, but I really.
I was going to ask. Would you like to live there? Would you like to own the house next door to it?
Yeah. Well, allegedly, the house next door was also built by the family, by the Finneys, and there was a gentleman living there who was outside. When I was there, he was outside fixing his front step.
You didn't ask him whether he had any problems.
He didn't seem to, he saw me, I saw him, but he didn't seem to be approachable.
Oh.
I think, that's another thing about these places. And Mark mentioned this a little bit about this, how folks will buy these locations and you have these groups constantly there. I think it would really bother me if I lived next door to a place like this where people were constantly in and out with cameras. And I'm sure this man was probably fed up with all of that. And to this day, I'm sure there's still television crews going to that house and filming, and I'm kind of responsible too. I did it myself, I was poking around with a camera, and I'm sure they're tired of it.
Yeah, I should imagine they would be.
Yeah.
Blooming great big lorries pulling up outside with all the equipment and people up and down the stairs and God knows what else, in and out the doors. Screams every time they hear a hiccup. True, Mark?
Yeah, there's a difference between ghost hunting and ghost research and investigation, or paranormal research and investigation. One involves people wanting to go, hoping to have an experience and get a thrill. The other is, the rest of us trying to get to the bottom of what's going on there. Sure, catching the evidence is pretty cool. Having personal experiences is pretty cool. But it's really about trying to figure things out. Figure out what is going on, what you're dealing with. And, if you can help, if you're dealing with a family, trying to find a way to bring them some peace.
Yeah.
It's one thing for some of these public locations, sure. You get an Eastern State Penitentiary or Waverly Hills, and it's a building that's specific, for ghost hunting. Fine, go do it, have fun. I mean, I've been to Rolling Hills Asylum in Bethany, New York, twice. That place I love it. It's very, very active, and if you want to go for a thrill, that's great. But for some places, like, this family that we were helping here in North Jersey for years, trying to go back and figure out what was going on. In fact, that's one of the cases that really taught me a lot about how little we know. And you can't just go in and assume things or base your opinions on Victorian era ideals of spirituality. And what ghosts are, and there's so much more information out there now from multiple dimensions, overlapping time, just so many different things that we have trouble comprehending that could be going on, plus the fact of non-human entities. And just because it's non-human doesn't mean it's demonic, also doesn't mean it's that friendly either.
Yeah. And also you got layered hauntings and God knows what else. And no haunting is the same anyway, let's face it. There is no MO to it.
No.
No, true. Right, physical contact was another thing that we were going to discuss. You had an experience where you got physically contacted or touched, or besides your shoelace, was it? Or was it your shoelace?
It was my shoelace, yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, let's skip that one. I thought you might have got pushed or something like that, Well,
when the Pickmans were there, Tony did almost get pushed down the stairs. He almost fell down, I believe. And the thing about the stairs at the Sallie House is that they're very small. they're very short little steps. It's very easy to lose your footing on those stairs, and I really didn't want to find out, so I didn't provoke. I really didn't want to fall down those stairs.
Yeah.
The most we talked about this the last time. The most significant physical contact I had was very close to San Antonio here, which is the old Yorktown hospital, and that is it's a great location. It's very, very active. The few times that I've been there 3 times, and every time I've been there, it's been extremely active. It's surprising.
Sorry, which hospital was this?
This is Yorktown Hospital, the old Yorktown Community Hospital, which is a little town about 100 and up again another 130 miles from San Antonio, southwest. I mean southeast.
This isn't the hospital we were going to talk about tonight, Yoakum Hospital or something. No.
Yoakum is about 40 miles to the north of Yorktown.
Oh.
And
so it's two different hospitals.
Yeah, 2 different hospitals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
At Yorktown, I was wearing. It was very hot. I was there in July, in 2013, and I was upstairs in the nurses' lounge area, and I had been provoking them. I'd been saying naughty things to see if I could.
Oh, slap on the hand.
And as I was sitting on the sofa, I felt 3 strokes of my leg from my knee down. Very distinctive. Very. It didn't feel like skin-to-skin contact, but it felt more like 2 pressure points on either side of my leg, and it then stroked down very deliberately 3 times. And I know I like physical when anything like that happens, anything physical like that happens, because that's something you really can't debunk that. Either you are touched, or you're shoved or pushed or scratched or whatever, or you're not. You can't say, well, I kind of think I got touched. No, either you did or you didn't.
Yeah.
When I was at Fort Mifflin, I felt a little tap on the top of my head. So I love it. I love it when it happens, and I encourage it. I say, if you can only communicate with me by touching me, then go ahead. If you want to push me, whatever.
Have you ever done that, Mark?
Done what?
Touch me.
Well, I used to get mercilessly teased by my team when I used to complain that I've never been definitively touched.
Oh.
Yeah, that produced howls of laughter that haunted me for a number of years.
I know people who never have, who've done this much longer than I have, who I think there's always some amount of skepticism when I do say that I have been, from folks who have not been, and I don't know what it is. Maybe, I don't know why it is that some folks have never had the physical contact, while some people have had very, very distinct, very deliberate contact.
But here's the thing, too. You have to take a step back and think about what constitutes physical touch. I've had sleep paralysis when the first house I lived in when I moved to New Jersey, as I was explaining where I caught that anomaly. I had sleep paralysis on several occasions. And in all of those times that it happened, it felt like there was a pressure pushing me down into the bed. And it would increase at times. I would try to talk to whatever was there in my head because I couldn't talk, telling it to stop, and then it would increase like it was saying it could do whatever it wanted, and then it finally would stop and go away. Other times I felt like, tingling on my hair, like maybe something lightly touching my hair, but is it a touch or is it electricity? I don't know, but things have happened. The body sends other signals too. I've had my heart race, have almost like an anxiety attack when I'm feeling certain types of energy in a location. So, again, what defines touching? If you think somebody like a hand coming up and grabbing you, no, I've never had that, but I've had other types of experiences.
Yeah.
Well, a stroke on the leg, that's a nice touch. It's darn sight better than getting shoved down the stairs, isn't it? A hand in the back and boom, you're gone. Yeah. No. You'd like to be touched on the leg, Mark?
Oh, which leg? The third one?
Oh.
Okay. That brought this show to a screeching halt.
I'm not touching that one.
I would hope not.
Neither am I. Oh, dear me. Oh, oh. Sorry. I had to put a grape in my mouth then.
You keep eating during our shows.
I know. It's because my mouth dries out, and it's because I talk so much. And it helps with the concentration when you're sucking a grape. Same way as if you put plum in your mouth, it helps with your dictation, the way you talk. Never mind. It's gone over his head. Okay. Right. So this Yorktown hospital is a totally different hospital to the one that we were going to talk about, which is Yoakum.
Yoakum, yes, and it's interesting, Mark, that you just brought that up because at Yoakum Hospital, this is the only location I don't particularly look forward to when I've been there, and I've been there 3 times also. There's just something about that place, and you brought up ley lines and that sort of thing. There must be something there that me and that place just do not get along because every time I've been there, I've had very negative experiences. And the last time I was there, in fact, it was a year ago today, I was at Yoakum. And as soon as I walked into that hospital and I sat down, there's only one light now left that actually works. So it's a really very dark, gloomy place.
Is it a big mausoleum of a hospital, or is it a small hospital that's more like a family house, a large family house or something?
No, it's a bigger structure. It started out. It was built, I believe, in the 1800s, late 1800s, and at first it was a very small structure, but then they added on quite a bit more to it, and it's pretty big. It's a big hospital, but. The last time I was there, this is the first time I ever had to leave a location because I just couldn't take it anymore. I began to become very, very depressed, extremely depressed, to where I started to seriously think about killing myself. I had this having suicidal ideation, and I thought, I got to get out of here.
What type of hospital was it? Was it a mental hospital? Was it a medical hospital? Or
it was medical, yeah. And what happened, and what actually really true, the way this hospital became famous or infamous is that one of the nurses was shot to death there by her estranged husband. And that really did happen there. It is documented that, and I have, in fact, the video that I made about that location, I did have a clipping of the newspaper clipping on the video. Mm-hmm. This has been, it's like I said, I've never had to leave a location, but that time I felt I had to get out of there because, again, I was becoming extremely depressed and having very, very bad thoughts that I wanted to hurt myself. And so there's something about that place that I got great evidence there, great EVPs.
But you'd been there twice before, and you didn't have these suicidal thoughts and things then, did you, or depression? You just didn't feel like you were in sync with the place, yeah?
Yeah, the time I was there before, the couple of times, it's just there's something about it I don't feel good in that location. And that's the funny thing is that most of these places I've been to, even, a place like West Virginia State Penitentiary, where there were very oppressive conditions for these very dangerous people, you would think that walking around in that place alone at night you would feel something, some sort of negativity about it. But I didn't. I loved it. It was a great location. I would love to go back. But this Yoakum Hospital, for some reason, the 3 times I've been there, I did not feel right. I didn't. I just felt as if something was watching me, something that was very negative, that didn't really want me there. There was just this odd feeling. And again, like I said, last time I was there, it was even worse.
And is it derelict, this place?
Yes.
It is.
And the two times I was there, it was fairly active. In fact, the second time I was there alone, it was very, very active, very loud. There was a very loud presence there that made quite a bit of racket.
What do you mean? Bangs or?
Yes, very loud banging sounds, crashing sounds, as if it took a metal pipe and was just tearing up the walls, breaking things. It became very, very loud, and it's all on the video that I shot. Because at the time, luckily at the time, I had everything running. I had all the cameras rolling, I had all my audio recorders running, and it was recorded on everything.
Yeah. See, a lot of these hospitals and asylums and everything that you've got out there, for some reason or other, they keep them, don't they? Over here, they seem to demolish everything and build council estates. Beautiful old Victorian, early Victorian asylums and things torn down to make council estates for people to live in houses,
Yeah.
They close them down. In go the hooligans, in go the cults and things like that. In go the thieves and take all the lead and everything off the roofs and one thing or another, and the next thing they are falling to pieces, and the councils just demolish them. And in walks the developers, up goes the state of houses.
Well, both of these old hospitals down here will eventually have to be torn down because they're not being maintained at all. And they are in various stages of decay. Depends where you are. If you're, especially the upper floors are in really bad shape now. So at some point, they're going to be condemned because they're going to be dangerous, and that's sad. I wish that these places would be maintained and properly kept up so that we can continue going. These are places that I can get to rather quickly. And they're easy to get to, but they're expensive.
Yeah. I don't understand, okay, I can understand with asylums because there is that stigma there that's pretty frightening, but with hospitals and things like that, old churches and everything, I don't know why they can't renovate them, make them into living accommodation for those people that can't afford expensive housing, make it into cheap accommodation, cheap housing for people. Yeah. Instead of just tearing them down and building blooming luxury houses for the elite sort of thing,
Yeah.
Do you agree, Mark, or not?
Well, not.
I didn't think you would.
No, it's I really wish more of these historical places could be preserved.
Well, they could be preserved if they made them into accommodation for people to live in, like factories. They do that over here with factories. They buy old mills and factories and they turn them into apartments and, million hundreds of thousands of pounds apartments for people.
Well, they do that over here too. I know of an old factory over here in town, not far from mine, where they've converted it into apartments.
Yeah, they usually go for a colossal amount, much more expensive than a normal man could buy. But you can do that with these hospitals as well. If you can do it with factories, you can do it with hospitals.
Yeah.
Keep all the outer facade and everything, you know? Mm-hmm. So that it looks still the way it would have done 100 or 200 years ago. But inside it's all modern, nice, and people are living in apartments.
Yeah.
Instead of letting them just go to waste.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. We're going into business, Mark.
What, converting apartments? I'm converting old warehouses?
Yeah. Yep. Out in America. It's no use doing it here. They cost too much to do. So we'll do it out there. Okay. So this particular one, you know, you had to give up that night and leave early.
Yeah.
Because you were having these nasty thoughts and you were wanting to self-harm and one thing or another. And how long did that last? Well, after you left, did it stop straight away or did it continue for a couple of days? Or
as soon as I got out of there, it stopped. So
as soon as you got out?
Yeah.
And see, that would make me want to go back because I would want to research that more. I would want to find out why. Why is it doing that? Now, you'd probably have to learn to put up some heavy protection going into a location like that because of obviously the way it's affecting you. But, you know, I would want to know, is this something residual? Are you picking up on something of some the spirit of somebody else who was there, maybe who committed suicide, or are you dealing with something non-human that is trying to affect you in a certain way to make you do things to hurt yourself?
Yeah. It's a little bit different when you are a solo because I had to make that call because I thought, well, what if this keeps going, and what if I what if I do something? What if I go throw myself down a flight of stairs? And the same thing when the second time I was there alone, when this very noisy ghost, I guess, started to make all those sounds, all those noises. When you're solo, you kind of have to make a call either way. If you're going to provoke it, if you want it to continue, or if you're going to back off, and I thought, nobody knows I'm here. So if anything happens to me, it's going to be a long, long night. Because nobody, except for the guy that, the site manager who lived about 40 minutes away. He was the only one that knew I was there. So being solo, I think that's one of the disadvantages of being a solo is that you have to be a little more careful, and sometimes you have to make that call. You have to say, maybe it's time for me to just leave. And when the spirit that or whatever it was, the energy that was being very noisy upstairs, I thought the way I read it was that it was upset. It was angry that I was there. So I said, you know what? I'll just leave you alone. I'll go back downstairs. There's a lot to do. And it's a big hospital, so there's a lot for me to do. I thought maybe it's upset that I'm here. And I went back downstairs and spent a little time downstairs. And then I did go back upstairs again. And I will go back again because you're correct, Mark. Yes, I want to find out why did this happen? What's going on with that location? So I will go back.
Mark?
Yes.
I thought you were going to answer then.
No, I was listening to his commentary, and again, there are cases there are certain cases I would love to go back to, like the ones I was mentioning. Unfortunately, the owners of both the houses we were investigating eventually sold and got out because it was causing them so much problems. Now, it's definitely not something you want to do and go knock on the door. Hey, I investigated your house once before. Do you guys have anything going on here? Yeah, especially when the old owner doesn't want to get sued for selling them a haunted house if they're having problems.
Patrick, do they charge a colossal amount to go into these places out there?
Every place is different. Some places are very affordable. Yoakum was only, I think it was about $300. Yorktown is $500. I tried to. There's a Trans-Allegheny lunatic asylum here in I believe it's in Pennsylvania. They wanted $1,500 for 6 hours
for a single person.
Just for me, and plus the insurance.
Yeah, you know, Rolling Hills was pretty expensive too. They were charging like I think $1,100, and we had to bring a group of 10 of us so that we could we each paying like $100 to get in. Of course, it's a very large location, but some of these places, I mean, you think that maybe they would try to work out a deal with a smaller group or something, but then it just shows some of them are in it just for the money. Others, they need the money coming in order to keep the place going. Because otherwise, you know, if they're still paying on the mortgage for the place, they'll default on the mortgage or even repairs to keep it up. I get it. You go to a place like Fort Mifflin that you mentioned, you know, and I've been to Fort Mifflin. They totally rely on donations or the money from the ghost hunts just to keep the doors open. So I do get it, but sometimes some of these places I think are just a little ridiculous in what they charge, like Eastern State Penitentiary. They charge an exorbitant amount. They only allow you to be there for 4 hours, and they only give you part of the prison to investigate. Yeah.
And you can't be there alone. I mean, that's one of the reasons I haven't gone to Eastern State, is because I can't solo. There has to be somebody kind of keeping an eye on you for some reason.
Yeah.
Have you ever done cemeteries?
Cemeteries, anything outside is tough because there's so much ambient sound and noise. Cemeteries, there are some that are out in the country here, quite a few. Actually, very, very old cemeteries. But no, when we were kids, when I was a teenager, we used to go to the cemetery. And I lived in Laredo, Texas. We used to go to cemetery quite a bit.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What about country churches with graveyards and things like that?
Yeah.
Out in the sticks.
Yeah. There's a lot around here, around San Antonio, yeah.
You never thought of doing them? So, you know, some of those are absolutely fantastic to do.
The other thing that worries me about cemeteries is that they are kind of wide open spaces. Anybody can get in, and anybody who maybe isn't a very nice person could, if I'm soloing a cemetery with a bunch of expensive cameras, it always makes me nervous.
Yeah. Oh.
And in fact, when I was in Yorktown Hospital, a group of teenagers broke into the hospital, and I had to confront them, and they were big kids. And I got a little nervous because I had an expensive camera with me, and luckily they were good kids. I asked them nicely to leave, and they did.
Yeah, so you were lucky there.
I was very
Could have been thugs, couldn't they?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's a risk you take, isn't it, when you're in these isolated places like this on your own?
Yeah, especially if you're like me, if you're a solo. I'm actually always more concerned about living people, than I am any ghosts or any negative entity.
Well, that's what they say, isn't it? It's not the ghosts and things that'll hurt you; it's the living. So,
yes.
Yeah. But I don't know. You know, I haven't done anything. I don't do cemeteries and things like that either, because tell a lie. I had to do Bell's Cemetery down here. They filmed it's famous for one of the episodes of Doctor Who was filmed in the cemetery. And I was working or doing something at the time to do with the advertising the it was a travel thing, you know, Welsh travel thing that I was doing at the time. And they wouldn't allow actual filming in there because I don't know. For some reason or other, they didn't like you having cameras. Since the Doctor Who episode, they didn't like people going in there with cameras and things. But there was no one about on this particular day, so we did take cameras, and we also took a lot of snapshots and things like that. But we kept anyone came towards us, we kind of tucked it out the way or behind their back, sort of thing. But I got EVPs there, and I was walking up between these tombstones, because they were brilliant, big old Victorian tombstones and things like that. This cemetery is absolutely packed. And I heard a woman with my ears turn around and say to me, "Look for the rose." And,
oh, wow.
Look for the rose. Anyway, didn't take much notice of it, carried on walking. And then suddenly I was drawn to this tombstone, and somebody had stuck a plastic rose in the ground on this tombstone. Wow. Just wedged it into the ground in front of the tombstone. Oh. And she was the feeling I got was that this woman was so thrilled that she'd got this flower on her grave.
Wow.
Yeah. But that was it is a fantastic big old graveyard, big old, I think they're still burying people there, but it goes way back before early Victorian, maybe even earlier. There's these big stones and statues of angels all over the place, and it's a fantastic place. Like I said, it was in one of the episodes of Doctor Who, because Doctor Who is obviously filmed just down the road here in Cardiff, so they use a lot of the places around the area. Marcus.
Yes.
Very quiet. Am I talking too much?
No, enjoying it. I'm doing co-hosting duties. You're the host. You talk away.
Do you want a thump?
A thump?
Okay. So what else have you done then, Patrick? You don't do houses, do you?
I don't do houses where I've never been asked. I wouldn't mind doing it. The place where I work, which is literally I can walk to and get there in about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's an old building. We've got a couple of ghosts in that place, and I'm not the only one who's had experiences there. Even the owner says he'd love to have me do a solo there. I should. Yeah, I've been there many years, and there's been some kind of odd little things that have happened in that. It's a retail space. Yeah. And we've had things fly off shelves. We've had odd voices in the office. The owner saw a shadow figure. So it gets active every now and then.
And that's an old building as well, is it?
Yeah, it was where I am back in the 1930s. This was the outskirts of San Antonio. Now it's quite a bit larger, and so this used to be probably farmhouses. And then this building, the building I work in, was built in, I believe, in the 1930s. So that's probably haunted. There's probably something there.
Yeah. Mark?
Yes?
You're winding me up tonight. Carry on.
There's some great old cemeteries out where Mark lives. I'd love to on the East Coast. I know there's some great cemeteries up there.
Well, Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, like I mentioned before, is huge, ginormous. One of the biggest cemeteries I've ever seen.
Can't you do it, Mark? Can't you go along there with a tape recorder or something?
Well, a few years ago I did. I'm not so sure now. I don't know if I know they lock the gates. You know, a lot of these places, you've got to be careful. You know, you can't be caught trespassing.
When I done the cemetery down here, right, I done it during the day. It was summertime, beautiful sunshine. I done three cemeteries that day around the area. But you don't have to go at night, do you?
No, you don't. I've gotten plenty of evidence at cemeteries during the day.
Mm.
Yeah, so it all depends. In fact, I'm kicking myself. I had an opportunity to do real research because a new cemetery was being built up here by me. It was going to be a veterans cemetery. And with that, they were building it, no burials. I wanted to go in there at night and do some investigations and see if you get anything. Theoretically, you shouldn't. Then wait a year or so, and like now they've got a couple hundred burials in there. I'm sure a lot of veterans and from the war and other people who've passed on. Now there's a lot of burials there. Then go back and do a follow-up investigation, and then see if there's any difference. But unfortunately, my life was kind of crazy at the time, and I never got a chance to do that.
You're talking about that. I just remembered something else about this cemetery that I went to, right? This big old Victorian place. Oh, dates. Oh, I'm not sure how far it dates back, but it is old. I remember I was walking along, right? Now, this is an AVP again, Audeville voiced phenomena type thing. I was walking along, and all of a sudden I heard cannon fire, bang, really, really loud. And, I just mentioned it to somebody that was there with the camera at the time. And he said, oh, yeah. He said, they used to fire the cannons off because it's on a coastal town off of the coast at enemy ships or whatever, and the person that used to do it is buried in a cemetery.
Wow.
I can't remember his name now. I can't remember it. I'll have to just try and think of it. Maybe it's in my notes somewhere, but I never knew that. I had no idea until I heard this cannon fire, and it was all to do with Napoleon times. I remember that bit.
Well,
it dates right back to Napoleon.
I had something very similar happen when I was investigating the Red Mill Museum in Clinton, New Jersey, which was an old grist mill that went back to the very early 1800s. There was that's one you'd like, Patrick. Oh yeah. The Red Mill is a great location, very haunted. We investigated it numerous times, and even made a documentary of it back in 2009 when we investigated it. But one of the times I was there, I was upstairs on the fourth floor of the mill, which was always the third and fourth floors were very active. And I was up on the fourth floor, and I had both video cameras running, and I had a digital audio recorder running. And what was really strange is on my audio recorder, you can hear me asking questions, and all of a sudden there's this loud bang, like an explosion. Like an explosion. Wow. Well, the mill sits on an old quarry. They were two separate businesses, but they worked together because the mill processed whatever was being dug out of the quarry right there, literally, a few yards away. So they did a lot of blasting. They even have what they call the dynamite shack there. So they did a lot of blasting. And I think I caught a residual of one of these blasts going off. Now, here's the interesting thing. I had a digital recorder and a video camera both running a few feet apart. The digital recorder picked it up. The video camera did not.
Oh, wow.
That's weird, isn't it? Absolutely weird.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, but you'd love that place, Patrick, because it's a beautiful old building. It's lovely to look at the building, isn't it, Mark? Because it's all painted red, and you've got the stream there and the water wheel and everything. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In fact, it's one of the most photographed mills in New Jersey. It's so picturesque. It's on the Raritan River. Ghost Adventures did an episode there back in 2008. and we were the first team after them, the first independent team to investigate the mill.
Wow.
And they, we kind of like set the tone, and they let a lot of other people go in after that. But I think they also stopped doing it for a while because they got a change of leadership. So this new leadership wants to be known as historical, not ghostly, and so they change it, and just turns into a mess. But yeah, it's a very beautiful location, very well kept up.
Yeah, it'd be lovely to have a picnic there. That's the type of place it is.
Yeah, they do a lot of things in the summertime, and there's this beautiful bridge. You walk over the bridge into the town of Clinton, which, the main street is a very old 1800s main street. In fact, it was funny, back in the day, the town would either be covered in white dust or black dust, depending on what the mill was producing that day, whether it was talc or graphite.
Wow.
And the whole town would be covered. So imagine living in the town and having to breathe that crap.
Oh.
Plus the fact that, when you look at all the belts, which they still have a lot of the belts and wheels, and the water wheel still works, and all these different belts going around, there's no safety precautions back then. I mean, you kill a man, you hire another man, but don't kill a mule because they cost $20. You have to buy another mule. So
that makes sense, doesn't it?
People really didn't. Life was cheap back then.
Yeah,
Oh.
People were to a penny, but when you got your mule, you got to look after him. No assing about with that one. So you, what else have you been up to then, Patrick? Anything recently?
Actually, and Patrick, we have like 2 minutes left in the show, so we are going to need to start wrapping up here. Is there anything else you've done recently, or you have anything else that's coming up that you wanted to plug?
Nothing that's coming up. I did do quite a few locations this year. Really great location in Ballinger, Texas. It's called the Old Park Hotel. Great location. Probably built around the mid-1800s. Just the creepiest, pretty active location. I haven't gotten to the video. I haven't gotten to any of the evidence yet. In fact, there's quite a few that I have that are in the queue that I just... I'm just slowly getting through, listening to all the evidence, looking at all the videos. So there's quite a bit still coming up.
Okay. And your website, Patrick?
Website is sologhosthunter.com.
sologhosthunter.com. And YouTube.
And YouTube coming up soon. Yeah. Same thing, Solo Ghost Hunter. I am currently working on updates for the website. So there will be new content.
Do you need a book, Patrick?
I wrote a book.
Okay, and is that out there?
Yeah. That one's called Timelines. And,
Timelines.
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon.
So there you go. Both the Amazon, all the Amazons, I presume.
I think so. Yeah.
Right, Timelines, people, on all the Amazons.
Yes.
.com, .co.uk, .fr.it.au. .can.
And on that note, well,
yes.
Patrick, thank you for coming on the show again. It's been wonderful talking with you, and we'll definitely have to have you come on later on after you've done a few more investigations we can talk about.
Yes. I'm looking forward to it. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be lovely.
Well,
okay, Mark.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to another edition of the Paranormal UK radio show here on the Paranormal UK radio network. You can also catch us Monday nights on Art Bell's Dark Matter digital network. And if you and the Paranormal app, and you can catch us where else, Irene?
Just about everywhere, Mark.
There we go.
Everywhere.
All right. Well, everyone have a wonderful Thanksgiving in the States. And Irene, we will catch you next week. And everyone, take care and have a great evening.
Okay, then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.